Welcome to Longevity Codes with your host, Fred Herbert. This podcast is about living a longer, healthier, and more active life. Each week, Fred shares strategies from experts about not only living longer, but helping us discover our personal longevity codes to live life to the fullest. This podcast is sponsored by RedoxLongevity.com, where we'll discover what experts are calling the most amazing breakthrough in our lifetime that affects health, anti-aging, and sports performance. Learn more at RedoxLongevity.com. That's www.RedoxLongevity.com. And now, here's our host, Fred Herbert.
Welcome, fellow longevity code breakers. In this podcast, we'll be talking about a strategy that's guaranteed to help you develop a better mindset when it comes to living a longer, healthier, and more active life. In 1883, Charles Dickens gave us the timeless story of Ebenezer Scrooge in the classic A Christmas Carol. Bear with me for a few minutes and you will see how the lessons learned from this tale can make an immediate difference in the choices we make and that impact our longevity and health. You'll remember that Mr. Scrooge was a mean and miserly man, but he had a complete transformation by the end of the story. What caused his incredible transformation? Here we'll find a formula to crack one of the longevity codes. For the purpose of longevity, we will focus on the three ghosts in the story. Ghost of Christmas Past, Ghost of Christmas Present, and the Ghost of Christmas Future. There it is. That's our simple formula, looking at past, present, and future to see how each of these will impact our living a longer, healthier life. The first ghost to visit Scrooge was the Ghost of Christmas Past. He took him on a journey to look at how things were. While we can't change the past, we can learn from it. I won't spend much time here, but simply ask the question, what in the past has impacted your current health? For example, what did your family teach you about food? In my case, I was raised to love sugar, and I still fight sugar cravings every day. My mom made incredible desserts, and she had cookies, pies, cakes, and sweets in abundance for every occasion. She was the hit of every church social, and her desserts were wiped out quickly. My wife, on the other hand, tells me her mom made great desserts also, but their availability was not even close to as much as mine, and sweets never became that much of an attraction for her. Undoubtedly, how we're raised can influence our attitudes about food. Another one that's so common is being told when you're growing up, clean your plates. To this day, it's very difficult for me to stop when I'm full. I don't want to stop until it's all gone. And what about fitness? Was your family active or more on the sedentary side? And how did your family teach you to deal with stress? Some families are explosive and others teach us to hold it all in. In many cases, we've been taught to eat when we're happy and to eat when we're sad. We learn that food can make us feel better. And of course, in the long run, it turns out to be a lie. Another influence on our eating is our culture. We all have different ethnic backgrounds. In some cultures, food choices are known to lead to health issues, while other cultures have better health and longevity. These are just a few of the kind of things from our past that have an influence on where we are today. In keeping with the Scrooge story, his trip down memory lane took him back to a time when he was happy and not filled with bitterness. Maybe during your look back in time, you see yourself fit, healthy, and happy. Your look back into the past might be just the motivation you need to make changes today. And thinking of today, that takes us to the present. The second ghost showed Scrooge what the truth was about his current state. Now's the time to take an evaluation of where you are in your health and wellness. Take a few minutes today for a very important self-assessment. In my career as a business consultant to help companies improve profits and performance, I first had to do a business assessment to get a clear understanding of the company's current state. If you don't know where you are now and where you want to go, it's impossible to know how to get there. This principle applies to your health, just like it does in business. Let's take out a sheet of paper and do a self-assessment. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 for each item. 1 is lousy and you couldn't be much worse, and 10 means this is perfect and I can't do any better. It's hard at first to rate yourself, but you'll get better as time goes on. Over time, we get accustomed to feeling a certain way and just get used to it and settle into the idea that, this is just the way it is. You've probably heard the analogy of putting a frog in boiling water and he'll jump right out. But put him in cold and turn up the heat slowly and he'll boil to death. Now, whether this is true or not, the point is, if we let things creep up on us slowly, we're shocked when we find ourselves in hot water. Here are a few items to rate yourself on. How you deal with stress, your mental focus and clarity, overall mood and happiness, joint comfort, energy, sleep. Are you dealing with back comfort and back pain, digestive issues and gut health, how well you recover from exercise, your overall fitness level, and your physical endurance? Rate each of these and anything else you can think of. Now, add up your total score, and that's your current state. As you make positive changes in your life, come back to this assessment every month and rate how you're doing. When I first did this exercise and then compared it to the previous month's score, I would have sworn there would be no change. But I was shocked when my overall score improved by 55%. If I hadn't taken the assessment the month before, I would have never seen the progress I was making. Now that we know our current state, here's the big one that will impact our longevity the most. A look at the future. What can we learn about the future from the Dickens story? You may recall the Ghost of Christmas Future took Scrooge into the future and showed him what life would be like and how his current behaviors would impact others. We're now going to do the same thing. We'll project out into the future what impact our current behaviors and actions will have on our longevity. And not just years, but better yet, the quality of our last couple of decades. Will our last years be filled with joy, activity, and mental clarity, or just the opposite? I don't want to be negative, but we must think about these things. We need what the Ghost of Christmas Future did for Scrooge. On our mirror in the bathroom, we have a quote from my wife, Tracy. It's titled The Scrooge Effect. Quote, "By projecting the consequences of our current habits into the future, we'll be motivated to make the appropriate changes today." End quote. For us, this is a daily reminder that we must think about how our decisions will impact our future. The compound effect is at play here. Let's contrast a few things. How would your future look differently for these items over a year or 2 or 5 or 10 or more? How about a donut a day versus an apple a day? 3 hours a day on a couch or 3 hours a day of physical activity? How about hanging around negative people or spending time with positive people? Spending a lot of time watching TV or spending a lot of time reading a book each day? Listening to talk radio and the latest negative news or listening to motivational audiobooks or lectures? How about eating at fast food restaurants most meals or eating healthy, home-cooked meals the majority of the time? And what about a kitchen filled with candy and cakes or a kitchen filled with fruit, nuts, and vegetables? You get the idea. These daily choices add up and they impact our future. They impact our longevity. Now's the time to look at our daily habits and project how they'll impact our future, good or bad. 25 years ago, I first heard Tony Robbins talk about how we are more motivated by pain than pleasure. He said, quote, "The secret to success is learning how to use pain and pleasure instead of having pain and pleasure use you. If you do that, you're in control of your life. If you don't, life controls you." End quote. I've always been intrigued about what really motivates us. In the Oxford Scholarship Online, I found an abstract from E. Torrey Higgins titled "Beyond Pleasure and Pain, How Motivation Works." Here's what Mr. Higgins had to say. Quote, "How does motivation work? The classic answer is that people are motivated to approach pleasure and avoid pain, that they're motivated by carrots and sticks. But to understand human motivation, it's necessary to go beyond pleasure and pain. What people want is to be effective in their life pursuits. And there are 3 distinct ways that people want to be effective. They want to be effective in having desired results, or value, which includes having pleasure, but it's not limited to pleasure. They want to be effective in managing what happens, or be in control, and in establishing what's real, or the truth. Even if the process of managing what happens or establishing what's real is painful. These 3 distinct ways of wanting to be effective go beyond just wanting pleasure. But there's even more to the story of how motivation works. These ways of wanting to be effective do not function in isolation. Rather, they work together. Indeed, the ways that value, truth, and control work together is central to the story of motivation. End quote. Let's use our desire to avoid pain to our personal advantage and let it motivate us to aspire to a better future. If we can make pain more real in our mind, we'll find it easier to avoid some of the temptations that hit us every day. Ask yourself, what will my future look like if I continue with these choices? That's what motivated Scrooge, and it'll motivate you and me to better prioritize our daily decisions. You have a choice right now to change your health destiny. Don't be one of those that look back and say, if only I'd taken better control of my health. Next time you're struggling, remember what we call the Scrooge effect. Let the past, present, and future be a tool as you find your own longevity codes. Until next week, remember, longevity is about adding quality to our quantity.
Thanks for listening to Longevity Codes. For more information, go to longevitycodes.com. To learn more about our sponsor, check out redoxlongevity.com. Tune in to next week's podcast, where you'll learn more strategies on living a longer, healthier, and more active life.